Pretty much all of crypto is going down right now. Bitcoin is going down, most altcoins are going down, but Kaspa is doing pretty well. Let's have a look at some data most people aren't considering. Let's look at on-chain data, let's look at long-term tokenomics, let's also look at the recent news why Kaspa is going up today. So right now we are at a bit under 18 cents. The price went up by 11% today, it increased by 20% this week, and it more than 7x'd this year. The reason for the price increase today is an announcement by Marathon Digital. 9 hours ago, they tweeted that they've been actively mining Kaspa. And Marathon Digital is the largest of the crypto miners by market cap, which very likely means that other crypto miners are also going to jump on this, will build dedicated hardware just for Kaspa. And that of course gives the whole project more legitimacy. But let's zoom out a little bit more. Let's have a look at the long term. On this channel, I've already published several videos on Kaspa. And the video published 9 months ago discusses a lot of fundamentals, usage statistics, token inflation, etc. Feel free to check it out. Kaspa, many things to like, but it was one of the better performing videos on this channel. So have a look at this. This is the blue line. That's the performance of that video. In gray is a typical video. And so I talked about KAS when the price was still at 4 cents. Again, now we are above 17 cents. So if this is your first time researching about Kaspa, maybe consider following channels like this. I try to be early and I do publish videos fairly regularly. Now on this channel, I try to be as objective as possible. I don't just randomly shill cryptocurrencies. I try to look at both the pros, but also the cons. Let's have a look at some cons for Kaspa. One thing I don't like is the on-chain usage statistics. So this comes from Kaspalytics.com. This is the number of transactions over time. The chart starts in October of 2023, and we don't really see much growth here, unfortunately. Here's the number of unique sending addresses. Also, unfortunately, not really any clear growth. Same is true for the number of unique receiving addresses or the average number of transactions per accepting block. So it doesn't seem like there is a vast influx of on-chain usage, right? Kaspa is its own blockchain, or rather block DAG, right? It's an improved version of a blockchain. There isn't that much usage of the Kaspa technology so far because unfortunately there isn't any smart contract capability. You can pretty much only send Kaspa tokens from one wallet to the next. The Kaspa team is targeting to launch smart contract capabilities, but that hasn't yet happened. The momentum around Kaspa though is super impressive. What we've got behind me here is not a Kaspa chart. What we're seeing here is a long-term Bitcoin chart, right? On a logarithmic scale starting in 2010. And Kaspa is very often compared with Bitcoin because it's also proof of work, because it's also fairly distributed, right? With a fair launch, all the tokens went to the miners. And so this is the long-term Bitcoin chart. Now this here is the long-term Kaspa chart. A specific Kaspa chart, it's Kaspa relative to Ethereum. There are very few altcoins that have such a nice chart. This as well is a logarithmic scale. So each time we go up by roughly this distance here, we double in the price. So the Kaspa price has doubled several times. It continues to double. And of course, every now and then we have our crashes similar to Bitcoin. But this is a very nice long-term chart. According to this chart, we've got a potential risk of losing 25% roughly versus Ethereum, but a potential gain of almost 3xing from here. There are a lot of comparables also in terms of tokenomics. This here behind me is the inflation rate of Bitcoin over time. So we all know how the Bitcoin supply gets cut in half every 4 years. And we are currently at 0.85% per annum of additional Bitcoin hitting the market through the miners. Here's the same kind of chart for Kaspa. The reduction here happens every month. It doesn't happen every 4 years, so it's a smoother line. That's then how the supply develops over time. So instead of looking at the newly issued tokens at every point in time, we look at the total supply. And at the point of recording of this video, 84% of all of Kaspa is already circulating. There isn't that much inflation anymore. At least in terms of percentages. There is a bit of a problem though, but more on this later. Let's have a look at the inflation in the next 12 months. So it's currently June of 2024. Let's have a look at the total supply in June of 2025. That's 26.07 billion. And the supply right now is 23.6 billion. So 1 year from now, we will have roughly 10.3% more supply. The market cap of Kaspa right now is 5 billion. So in order for the price to stay stable, we need to have at least $500 million of purchasing in the next 12 months. Every day, $1.3, $1.4 million has to flow into Kaspa. Now, there's many ways to buy the KAS token, right? Again, Kaspa is its own blockchain, so most people will simply just use centralized exchanges. There is a wrapped version, though, that can be bought on the Ethereum chain. So on Ethereum, you have KAS to be bought on Uniswap, and the liquidity pool is almost 2 million in size. So there is some liquidity here. The nice thing about Ethereum-based tokens is that we can actually do quite nice on-chain analytics. Have a look at this. This is the number of holders over time for the Ethereum-based wrapped KAS token. On the left side, we've got the number of wallets that have at least 10,000 KAS. So at the current price, that's roughly $1,800. That's what I'd consider retail. In the middle, we've got medium-sized retail. It's another 10x from the left. So that's now 18,000. On the right, we've got the whales, that's $180,000. All cohorts are increasing their holdings over time, that is good. But let's see how much buying pressure there really is. Maybe starting from beginning of the year, where we had roughly 700 holders to today, roughly 900. A delta of 200 new holders that have at least $1,800 in the token. That's 360K worth of purchases. We've got 10 times the amount over here in the middle, but we also only have 30 to 40 wallets that increased over here. So maybe that's another 500K or so. And for the fun of it, let's also double this here on the right. So maybe in total on the Ethereum chain, we got roughly $1 million worth of purchases of KAS. Again, since beginning of the year. So that would be roughly 2 million of purchases over the span of 1 year. But as said, we need at least 500 million for the price to be stable. Now, the big question is how much of purchases happen on Ethereum versus on the centralized exchanges. This is incredibly hard to answer because unfortunately, the decentralized exchanges aren't even listed here. Most trading volume happens in black boxes in Gate.io and in Maxi and in Bybit, Qcoin. On top of that, we've also got some leverage through perpetual futures, through Binance and Bybit, again Maxi. And so that makes it very hard to estimate how much of this purchasing is actually natural versus potentially inflated or manipulated. We can definitely say that momentum is positive. We can definitely say that people are buying. And the long-term relative valuation chart to Ethereum is very, very pretty. And the token inflation with 10% per annum, relatively speaking, isn't that bad. The only question is, since the market cap is already 5 billion, 10% of that is 500 million. And that supply expansion needs to be absorbed by all kinds of purchasers. So of course by retail, but also by the larger institutional players. Kaspa in isolation looks quite nice. The problem is that all of crypto doesn't look that great right now. This is the stablecoin market cap over time. It's either contracting or expanding. This here, by the way, was the Terra Luna collapse. So this is when the Anchor protocol failed. Money afterwards was flowing out of crypto. That then turned around in October of last year. But since April of this year, we barely see any more expansion, unfortunately. And we have seen what happens when there's no expansion for a while, right? DeFi protocols could blow up. If history was to repeat itself one-on-one again, then we would see such an implosion in July, 10th of July of this year. I doubt that this will happen, but still, I prefer to be in a market that expands. When the market isn't expanding, it's 100% player versus player, right? You need to make better calls than the average trader. And most people don't make better calls, especially when you've got a diversified portfolio, right? There's very few altcoins that did well in the last month. And so fundamentally, I personally approach the market differently at the moment. I don't try to find the 1 or 2 winners that might do well. Kaspa could be among those winners, but what I rather do is I try to bet on falling prices. Since the majority of altcoins is likely going to underperform in a market that's not expanding, why not simply just bet on the haystack instead of trying to find the needle in the haystack, right? The one winner among all of those losers. So I am shorting altcoins right now. And I like to short altcoins that have a very quickly expanding supply, that expand quicker in supply than Kaspa. This is one of the altcoins that I'm shorting. This is again a relative performance, this time to Ethereum. And I'm currently making money as this chart continues to go down. Since beginning of the year, this went down by roughly 50%. And so this channel has a premium membership where I talk about how to short altcoins, where I've got tutorials how to use Web3 to short altcoins, where I also disclose what altcoin this specifically is to short. So I ran the numbers. If you've got roughly $3,000 in this short, then premium is 100% for free. So you need to have a few $1,000s in order to make this worthwhile. If your crypto portfolio isn't yet large enough, there's also a free Telegram. Feel free to check it out. Link is down below. Looking very much forward to chatting with you in Telegram as well. Cheers.